Hi everybody, it's Grace. Welcome to Eating Peace. I have been traveling and gone and I'm finally home and it feels so peaceful, like there's this comfortable kind of like clunk in with not, living out of a suitcase and seeing and exploring new places and meeting different people and wandering around and being amazed by the world. And you see places that you've never been to before. It's kind of exciting and wonderful, and there's also something really settling and delicious and wonderful about landing back in the familiar, in something that feels like it's right. And I just thought I would share a little bit about the sense of home when it comes to food and eating and compulsive behavior. The feeling that people often will share with me and that I experienced myself is that there's a movement outside of the self. Like, I need to go get that substance. I must eat that food. I must do that thing. I must smoke that cigarette. I must have it. I must have it. And like it's a panic, urgency, emergency. That's like a sensation of, like binging, wanting to grab, right? And then there's also just sort of like a dull malaise, boredom, and too much repetition, too familiar. What is life for? What's the point? What's the meaning of anything? I don't really get it. And that's got a different kind of feel, but there's still this reaching outside of the self. Whatever's here in the home, inside the heart, inside the mind, is somehow not comfortable. It's either not good enough or boring or empty. And it is, who knows when the home feeling happens. But one thing I wanted to suggest today, I want to tell you all a little bit of a funny story about trying to grab at finding home when it's not really, it feels like there's an answer, but there isn't really one. When you really, really think about it, when it really boils down to the base bones of whatever home is, there's something sort of mysterious about your own personal home. And you just know it's there. It's a feeling. But I wanted, because I didn't have that sense inside, I wanted some structure. In my early 20s, when I had dropped out of college, I returned home, that kind of home where I grew up, the house that my parents owned and lived in. I was staying there and beginning the therapeutic process of just traditional method, going to a therapist who was familiar with eating disorders, compulsive behavior, and working with her. And my parents asked me to pay for half my therapy, and I agreed that was probably a brilliant idea. I needed to get a job, and I felt really resentful about work. It was like, jobs are boring, and they're traps, and they're brutal, and you have to do things you don't want to do, and drive places you don't want to drive. I felt so confined by the whole job thing. It was the same exact attitude that I had had towards food and eating. There's no good answer, and you're just forced to follow these certain rules, and it's never going to work. It's never going to be fun. I was on a job interview, and at the end of it, which threw me into a lot of anxiety, I was beginning to eat. I probably only had $20 left to my name, but I was supported by my parents. I had my old bedroom back, and I had meals and could share in the household. They were very kind. And I remember I did have a little bit of money in my wallet. I had gas in my car. And I went and began to buy food that looked binge-like, or just food that I wanted to eat. And purchasing some, had it on the front seat of my car. And I felt miserable. This, again, and I'm going to go do this work in an office building that I don't think I want to do, and I feel against, and I can't find any peace about this moment. And I'm eating food I don't really want to eat, driving the car along, and I see this building. Oh, like the angels. It has a huge white sign with big, huge letters. Weight Watchers. Special. Oh my gosh, I've never tried that before. I'm doing this heavy-duty, intense therapy where I'm trying to figure out my feelings, and I've been to 12-step programs and gone to AA meetings and learning about addiction and the darkness and the wildness of life, and I'm trying to understand myself from the inside out and actually relate to my parents and figure out how I'm getting triggered all the time. We can just can all that and have a plan over here where somebody tells you exactly what to eat. I can just weigh and measure my food, and I can stop worrying, compulsively about what I'm eating and when I'm going to eat it and that it's too much and like flipping all around all the time. I'll do Weight Watchers. So I called my mom. I just had the job interview. Yes, it was fine. Hey, I'm in the Weight Watchers parking lot. Can you pay for me to go to that thing? I really want to go. It's going to be awesome. I just want to be told what to do. She said no. She held firm to her no. She was not going to budge. She's not going to sign me up for Weight Watchers. She's already paying for her daughter, who's dropped out of college, to go to therapy. They have researched. They've explored. My parents were actually amazing. Very open-minded, very worried about their daughter, and even open-minded enough to be willing to accept that they might have a part in the family system and the dynamics that have gone on that have created an eating disordered situation. They were amazing. So in a fury, I, leave that parking lot and I travel home. It was way before cell phones, by the way. I'm trying to think. I think I was in a phone booth, to be honest. Anyway, I just remember that. So mad at my mom. And then, only a short time later, after talking about it in therapy, realizing I was so grateful for my mom. And I was so grateful for the doors that had remained closed. I did not spend time traveling down a path that was not really what I wanted. What I really wanted was to find peace with food. No matter what food was around, no matter who was around with it, whether I was surrounded by a feast or nothing, whether I had a gigantically full refrigerator or I was in the presence of a party with all kinds of food, I did not want to be anxious anymore. And I knew it had something to do with my mind and my heart. I knew it did. I wanted to be comfortable in my own skin so that I could say yes and I could say no freely without fear. I didn't want to be worried about poisons or what was in the food. I didn't want to read labels obsessively. I didn't want to count calories. I wanted freedom. And I love that the doors closed about other options, for other options. And it always pointed back to go home, Grace, go home, go home. Even if I don't know what Grace is, what this person is, what's going on all the time, there is some sense of home in here that is what is right for me, like just kind of settling in. And if you feel like you don't even know what I'm talking about and you've never experienced it before in your life, don't worry. That's how I would have answered as well in the past. I have no idea what you're talking about. I never feel at home. I feel like I'm on this planet and it's a mistake. I'm not home. The sense of being home is possible for anybody. If it was possible for me to find it, it's possible for anyone to find it. Believe me. And it is mysterious and strange. But here is one little thing you can do. If you ever feel like you are beginning to make plans and you're on that thing, I'm going to go to Weight Watchers, I'm going to go do this, there's nothing wrong with any of those. Those can be amazing tools to use as stepping stones to get back home. They really can. Everything can have its place and its purpose and its contribution. All the things that I did feel like they built up to just like the perfect right place for me. But I knew where I wanted to get ultimately, or I knew what I was most drawn to was peace no matter what's going on. And a way to tap into that is to sit in silence. So that's your homework for today. Homework for today. It's the easiest kind of homework, even if you think it's tricky and it's going to be hard. It's the easiest kind of homework you will ever have. So put on a timer if you haven't sat still in meditation for 5 minutes. You can get this little meditation timer on a cell phone if you want to. Just put on a timer for 5 minutes only. And close your eyes and sit still. 5 minutes. And if you can build that up to 30 minutes a day, you are coming into home free. You can just see what it is. It's not always easy. It's sometimes very difficult and painful because you have a lot of busyness in the mind. The mind will be screaming, shouting, and saying, no, there's got to be an easier way. This can't be it. This is not it. You just begin to practice, almost like it's a meal. It's a food. Trust that there's food and nourishment in the silence. And just see if you can do it. But only 5 minutes. Do not go more than 5 minutes, especially if it gets uncomfortable in any way at all. Okay, don't force this. This is not like going on a diet, like a silence diet. You're going to find what's pleasurable and interesting and sweet about all of this. So let me know how it goes. Okay, bye-bye. Welcome home.